Hey guys, welcome back to another market update with the Patti Martin Real Estate Group. We're joined with Patti Martin and Jennifer Adams. How are you guys?
We're well, thank
Great, thanks. Yeah,
We are
good.
going to
How are
try to.
you?
I'm good. No, I'm
Good,
good.
good,
We are going to
good.
try to condense a lot of information because a lot has happened month over month between stats and some new government regulations and rules and things that they're trying to implement. So we're going to try to get through this in under 10 minutes. Let's see how we do. The first couple changes that are coming into effect later this summer are some new tenancy protection rules. They are not into law yet, but Jen, you have a couple things that you want to discuss about what's being talked about. Can you take us through that?
Absolutely. So April 2nd, kind of a proposal has come out, and none of this will be put into fruition until the summer. So at this point, there's a large amount of confusion surrounding it. And so we're going to try to break it down here today. So basically, they put these in to close some loopholes because as we know, tenant and landlord relationships are complicated and can often involve disputes. But especially for us, when we're selling real estate, it's really important that a seller has the ability to give vacant occupancy for that new buyer. So currently, if a buyer, let's do a scenario, if a buyer writes an offer on a tenanted property and, does their due diligence and they remove subjects, they give the seller this notice to end tenancy. And it's called the 2-month notice to end tenancy. And so depending on when the tenant pays their rent, that 2 months starts either, let's say, at the first of the month or the 15th. Let's talk about being the first of the month in this case. So you give this, and you have to be presented to the tenant in a certain format prior to these 2 months. Now, we also have to keep in mind that they are allowed a 2-week, so 15-day kind of time they can dispute it. The proposed change is that in this scenario, you have to give a tenant 4 months notice, and the tenant also has 30 days to dispute it. So this has a number of sweeping implications in terms of buyers and sellers. And what's unclear is it's unclear if this is applying to a new buyer or if it's applying to just a landlord who currently owns a unit and then would be giving their tenant
Yeah,
notice.
so
Isn't that
this
right,
is
Adam?
that's right. We were talking about this just before we started the recording,
Yeah.
where the way I read it, and I'm a landlord myself, I read it that it's for personal use, and they've used that type of language in the rules. And then they go on to, or the government goes on to show that personal use is for landlord use or for a family member.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's not fully instated, and I'm sure there's going to be more exemptions and declarations and a portal that we have to go through to prove that the use is actually the third person moving in. And then the question
Exactly.
remains, is it 2 months notice to vacate or 4 months notice to vacate?
Exactly. And there's also some complications about first-time home buyers being exempt, and they have a 92-day period in which when they purchase the property, they have to move into it. So how could that tenancy then affect whether or not a first-time home buyer paid property transfer tax? So we're going to have to watch that for the summer, see how this rolls out. And I think that will be a discussion in a future podcast for us for sure.
That could be an absolute nightmare scenario, because we were also talking about a scenario where, let's say it is landlord personal use and you give the tenant 4 months notice to vacate because you're going to move a family member in. What happens when the tenant turns around and gives you the 15-day notice that
Yeah,
they're going to move out?
exactly.
So not only do we have to compensate them for the missed months, am I allowed to get in there early because they've now chosen to leave? Could I re-rent it for a 30-day minimum time frame? Or is the landlord sitting there with an empty unit for 3 months because rules are rules and you don't want to be a rule breaker?
And more likely than not, that's what's going to happen. And so these new rules are really penalizing landlords. Let's face it, right?
And let's add to the equation that our rental market has been very, very, very tight. Hard to get a rental, right? We've helped several people in the last couple of months any which way we can. And but what's really interesting is in the last probably month, I've had 3 clients tell me their tenants have given notice and are leaving.
And then we also hear that if they're a couple, they're moving down to a 1-bedroom if they previously had a 2-bedroom, just for affordability reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Moving on here.
it'll be interesting to see if that frees up some inventory, makes people sell some things. Yeah.
So we'll have another video on that once the rules come out.
Yeah.
For sure.
Moving on, the government has also come out and said that they want to allow first-time home buyers who are purchasing newly built homes to pay off their mortgages over 30 years instead of 25 years starting August 1st. So the rules for this are first-time home buyer, it has to be a newly built home, and this is only for insured mortgages. So first-time home buyers that have less than 20% down now qualify to have the extended amortization.
So does it have to be, when you say newly built, is it brand new? Is that what you're saying? Or is it
Brand new.
brand new?
Newly built.
Can afford a brand new
Further
home.
to this,
Yeah,
first-time
I
home
know.
buyers-
First-time buyer.
Then they're paying
In our market.
GST. I know. Then they're
you
paying
have transfer
GST.
tax on top, which you have some
Just saying.
transfer tax exemptions, which are new, and then
Yeah.
but you still have to pay the GST, the 5% GST.
Yeah.
Probably
then-
not going to
and
affect
then-
our market greatly.
And then what's interesting, right, is when we amortize over 30 years and we put less than 20% down, we're paying a lot of that money in interest, you
yeah.
guys. We are not really paying down that principal, are we? So, yeah, that's a
long
discussion
time.
to, everyone needs a roof over their head, but you've got to think about it. Yeah.
Seems like an election point versus actually, substantial change. That's
And
gonna
the
be
RSP,
positive.
what about the RSP that you can
The
get?
Yeah.
RSP, they are increasing the limit from 35,000 to 60,000. So that's increased a couple times in the past, let's just say decade since I've been a realtor. It went from 25 to 35. Now it's 35 to 60 that you can draw out and then repay. A couple
Perfect.
things that I just wanted to also note on this is that economists have come out and said that by 2030, Canada will be millions of homes short of what is needed to resemble any type of affordability. Now, we've said this over many months and videos, but none of this is affecting supply. This is always the demand side. Just to show you again, this past year, new home starts have drastically dropped. So there are about 253,000 across Canada for new home construction,
Right.
but our population is up 1.3%.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
1.3 million.
The cost to builders is it's exponential now. It's the risk that they're taking. It's financing the project, paying the trades and labor, and of course material costs. So like this isn't really in a way a surprise. It's not a friendly climate to build in. It seems like it should be because of course we know that there's so much demand, but they've also, all these developers have been in this for a long time and they have been burnt from time to time, and so they're just going to wait it out.
So I want to continue moving forward. Let's talk about the monthly stats. Now, when I read the stats, it appears that the market is really softening. Like, it appears that the board is going after this storyline that is showing that there's way more inventory and there's just no buyers. So before we start that, we've had the 6th consecutive fall for unemployment. So now we're at unemployment at 6.1%. We had the Bank of Canada hold their rate at 5%. Like, the economy's, it's moving slowly. It's not doing too well here. So the bank has come along and said, hey, listen, we're just wait and see. As we move into the sales here, the board has come out and said that there have been 2,415 sales in March 2024, and that this is 31% below the 10-year average, and it is 5% below March 2023. So we have this decrease in sales. Now, when we break it out month over month, sales are actually up 17%. Have we seen that in our market?
Yeah.
Have we seen that with our listings?
It really matters, of course, how realistic people are about pricing. So if they are realistic about pricing, in other words, they're fully informed and agree with our evaluations, then most homes sell really quite quickly still. But not all. Some of them, higher price points, take a little longer for sure. But there's a tremendous amount of product that's incorrectly priced. We talk about this every month. So that clogs up the system and skews the facts. And hence why the board, can't tease that out.
That's very interesting that you say that, because there's a little excerpt here in their printout that says that demand remains strong for well-priced and well-located properties.
Bingo.
The good stuff still sells.
Indeed.
Moving forward, we have 5,000 newly listed homes for sale on the multiple listing service in March 2024. It's a 16% increase compared to March 2023. So here we go again, a big increase in newly listed homes. But when we look at newly listed homes between February and March, we're actually only up 9.7%. Moving forward onto that, the total number of homes listed for sale is 10,552, a 22.5% increase from March 2023, but really only 9.5% up from February 2024. So month over month, we really don't have that big of a change in inventory.
It takes time, right? If it's up 10% in 1 month, that's a significant enough number to know that eventually it starts to backlog and then starts to build up, and people's perception, whatever that is, starts to change. And we can see that even in well-priced properties that we've marketed in the last 2 weeks, where 6 months ago we might have had 7 offers. Now we're only getting 2 or 3.
Right.
They're not as wonderful as they were 7 or 8 months ago. Yeah. So it is happening. I absolutely believe it's happening, and it's just a matter of time before we move into a much more balanced market. We're still not there, certainly at the lower end, but it's happening.
You're right. I don't think we're there yet. So right now, when you look at the numbers, we only have 4.3 months of inventory. Like, we still don't have a lot of inventory. When we look at the sales, I mean, if sales are up 17%, despite inventory going up 10%, that kind of, doesn't that offset each other like a little bit? Is my math completely skewed here?
Yeah. I think that the April stats are going to be really exciting, and they're really going to show some kind of a trend, right? Like, we're really going to see what kind of goes on at the end of April. And then I think further to this idea, are we headed toward a balanced market, or where are we going? Let's say a bunch of inventory does come up, and then that rate cut does happen when they say it's going to happen. They're kind of predicting June, July, somewhere in the summer or whatever. Are we in a balanced market? I don't know if we are. Like, because if demand increases, we may stay in this kind of slightly seller market.
There's so many little things that can happen, right?
Yes.
Summer comes and everybody gets distracted. It's been raining for 4 months, and it's cold. So they all go away houses anymore. They're done. There's suddenly more houses to choose from. I'm not in a hurry. I've got lots of time. Oh, the rates come down. Maybe it's going to come down some more. Those are things
maybe
that
we'll wait till the fall.
And so that can actually work against us for sure in terms of sellers selling their property. Definitely.
Yes.
This might be for a wider conversation, but do you think that the cap on new people coming into Canada is going to hinder any of the buying and selling, or soften the market a little bit? Like, are some of our numbers slightly covered up because they've been, like, these listings have been consumed by people who are new to Canada, not necessarily all PRs that can buy, but they're new to the country. Like, is the inventory being absorbed by them? And if we don't have the new influx of people, will that start to increase our inventory as we get into 2025, 2026 and mortgage renewals and all that stuff? Do you think there's a little bit of stuff going on beneath the surface?
I actually don't see a lot of our buyers being new people to the country. I see it's a lot of just moving from. A lot of our buyers in the last little while, buying the $2 million sold to 1.3. Or the 1.3 came from the 700,000, and the 3 million came from the 2. So those are all just people that live here and are just moving around in the market based on their own personal needs.
I totally agree.
Also,
Yeah.
just wanted to put that to rest because I've heard rumblings that, now that immigration is going to be capped, that, all this stuff is going to happen in the market. So I just wanted to get your professional expert opinion like everybody else. I think that's a good place to stop. Of course, we always want to end.
I just have one
That's
more.
what I was going to ask. Is there anything else to say?
Yeah, there is. If you like the content that we're putting out and you've been kind enough to stick with us throughout this, I want you to like and subscribe, and we'll continue to have this conversation with you.
Also follow us on Instagram and Facebook if you're into this content. We're always posting there as well.
Exactly.
Post all our new listings. We try to keep it very business-like.
Yeah.
We promise
Got
no
lots of info
weird
on
vacation
there
shots.
Well, maybe the odd one.
Maybe the
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for your time today. It's always a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks,
Have a
Adam.
great day. Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.